me, the screen, and all of it. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bear.Den.Podcast. It's a sunny day, finally, for the first time in, I guess, a couple days now. So it's good. I've got Kim Clark, my mom. She's on the podcast today. We got a handful of things to talk about. So, yeah, we'll just get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, let's do it. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Mom's first podcast.
Yes, my first podcast. I've been learning all this new technology today, so I had some lessons.
Yeah, I was teaching her some more savvy ways in Instagram, I think, and I think anybody who is 20-something or 30-something knows the assistance as being a tech guru for your parents or older generation or whatever it might be. And it just is, I don't know if we can learn it better on the fly or we're so obsessed with social media. Maybe a little bit of both.
I don't know. It's easier for me to learn from somebody in person showing me.
That's true.
And you guys are at a great advantage compared to my generation and older. We're still trying to figure it out. Even though you guys use it all the time, we don't use it as much. So there's a lot of things you do naturally that we don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is definitely
true.
I
have learned a lot today. Just 5 minutes. Where I've been struggling on the internet for hours, so thank you.
Of course. So my mom, she's got a page called Devotions with Dogs. If you who have listened to the podcast have heard our four-legged friends in the background, there's another one in the house today, so you might hear some extra barking or whatever it might be. But they're just a regular family member to us. And if you don't like it, then I guess just don't listen to the podcast. That's all I can say. So yeah, what was your idea on Devotions with Dogs? What was?
Oh, wow, that's a good. We could spend a long time talking about.
Well, that's good. We got time.
Well, your grandma years ago, because we had a lot of stories. Our family has lots of experiences, right? I mean, we've done a lot of things together. We're very close family, so we like to do things together. And I would tell your grandma, like, some stories of things that would happen, and she'd say, Kim, you need to write those down. And I thought, oh, who wants to hear these stories? I mean, they don't, for me, they're just life.
Yeah.
And your grandpa died, right? So grandpa, had been sick for a while, and he died, and I spent a whole year kind of going with God, like working through grief and all of that. And I think that was good, but in that time, God said, you've got a lot of really good stories that you could put together with my word, and maybe it would help somebody else in their walk with Christ, or maybe somebody that doesn't even know Christ but likes dogs, for instance. So I thought, well, okay, maybe that's an idea, but it still didn't really stick to me. Like, I didn't feel moved to do it. And, I like looking at old houses. I'm a Civil War house. We like history.
We're
history buffs. But I really like Civil War architecture. So there was a house in Marshall, Missouri that had been renovated. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go look at that. You had to go on a tour. So I drove down there, and I had like 3 hours to waste because I got there early. And there's this really obscure museum there. I've told you about this, where there's this dog in this town in the 1930s that was very unique. He had some special gift. I don't even really understand what that was all about. But I thought, well, this is interesting. This is an interesting dog. I mean, he impacted a lot of people's lives. And then, of course, I like cemeteries, so I drove to the cemetery. This dog is buried in a human cemetery. And, I got there, and I went to look at the dog's headstone, and that was very moving to me. But then I looked around at the rest of the cemetery, and it just hit me how many people were in the ground there that never knew Christ, that were never going to be in heaven with him, never in the presence of the Lord. And I was really overcome that day with just thinking about so many people that don't know him, and how I'm blessed. I do know him.
Yeah.
And how much that matters to me, to be part of his kingdom, to be a child of God. And I just was very convicted that day to start Devotions with Dogs. And part of that is because every morning I spend with the dogs outside usually.
Yeah.
That's the time I spend in devotions, reading scripture. And sometimes the dogs are an inspiration to me. And sometimes they're just around, milling around while I'm reading God's word for the day, just to start the day off. And that's how it started, basically. That was the first story I wrote, was that story, basically. In the Beginning was the name of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. No, Dad shared it the other day at men's group, and I think everyone took your not your latest one, but the one before that, it was pretty impactful just as a whole. I think that it doesn't matter who reads it. The Word of God. The story with it usually always resonates with somebody one way or another. That's why, Pastor Phil always does something, or your pastor of your church, always has something that ties in because it catches your eye and keeps you interested.
Yeah.
And that's the same. And people are so obsessed with dogs nowadays. I think that's a great.
That's what I thought too. I mean, everybody's interested in dogs. They're part of our lives now. It's a culture shift where, whenever you were growing up, dogs were part of the family, but not as much as it is now. I mean, everything. If you have a dog, a lot of things revolve around dog life.
Yeah.
And the amount of money that you can spend on dog toys, and you can, if you hear the dog bone right now being chewed in the background. I mean, if you think about it, so people that like dogs or love dogs or have dogs in their lives, they're part of our pack, and they're very meaningful to us, and they're like family to us. So a lot dogs are like that for a lot of people. So
they are. Yeah. They are. They're ingrained in our hobbies. I mean, with you guys, from our winter hobbies of hunting to then. They basically dig up the garden with you and Dad while you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's true. They'll be out there. I mean, in another month, they'll be helping us. Yeah, we'll have the dogs. Well, Daisy and Kate are out there even in the winter hunting. Yeah. So they're always out there with us. So they're around us constantly. So they are part of our life. And sometimes God uses them to speak to me, to my heart, about something. So I don't know. That's just how it kind of got going.
Yeah. Yeah. So, being a mom and we're a working mom, how does that raising myself and Rebecca and in your faith and being as what then I guess was, how do you think that's changed from now to how it is if you're a working parent now as a mother?
I think it's harder now, actually, to be a mom with children at home and working. I think there's a lot of things that social media really has changed a lot of things. We didn't have all of that going on whenever you were little, so I didn't have things to compare myself to as much. And the other...
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, yes. And the other problem, too, though, with not having social media when you guys were little and I was working, is that if you didn't have a good core group of women around you that could mentor you, you were kind of on your own. You really didn't have the resources that you have available with social media sometimes, because there are some good things about social media. So, raising children back then without social media, and even now, I feel like it's really important to put a core group of people around you that support you and that you can learn from. Because a lot of stuff on social media is just not good. I mean, it's just kind of fake, and it's not really personal.
Or not real.
That's the other thing. You can be very tricked into thinking something is reality when it's just not. So I think having people in your life that are really connected to you really makes the most impact. And probably, those people that were in my life whenever we were raising you are still my friends. I mean, they still are people I just had dinner with somebody on Friday, and they're part of our pack of raising children back then. And your sister still talks, and you still talk to people that we were a part of back then whenever we were growing and learning together. So, and it's hard to be a working mom and have children at home, because there's a lot of things you have to juggle and figure out. But I think for me, it was very important very early on that God was part of that God was in the center. We always went to church, and it was just something that we committed to. Sunday morning was in church, and even Wednesday nights were in church, as you remember. I mean, we would go to church on Wednesday nights, and that's not so common now, but back in those days it was, and those things were all very, very important, just to keep that as the foundation for our family. So your dad and I really committed to that whenever you guys were little.
Intentionality, I feel like, is the biggest thing that I think you guys did, well of. I think our household was a household that people would show up to our house, and I wasn't even there, because they knew the intentionality of the love that was there. And
anybody was welcome.
So.
And I have the broken furniture from back then to prove it.
just
or
yeah.
burn down, decks and that type of thing.
A
So.
handful of different things. Yeah, yes, yeah, a handful of burned down different things,
Yes,
and
yeah. But those are all, those things don't matter. Like it never really, I didn't really care, that, I mean, I cared that the deck burned down, but those things can all be built back.
yeah,
But whatever happened out there, whenever you guys were there, was more important than a burned down deck.
yeah,
Because nobody was injured,
yeah.
right? And it's a good story. It might be a
It's
devotions
good.
with dog story one day. Cause it's
Yeah.
now that I think about it, I should probably write that down.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So those are the stories, though, right? Like the broken furniture and I don't know, all these things. I can remember, you had, some of your boys over and you were shooting fireworks off or something. I don't know, very close to the house.
Yeah, we were trying to night hunt coyotes, I think is what
I
it
don't
was.
know.
So, yeah, we were spotlighting coyotes because we thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things I thought was happening that really wasn't. It was something else. So.
Yes.
But it was a
Most
safe
definitely.
place to be. Our
Yeah.
place was a safe place to be.
That is very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. So, in your life, you've had multiple different hobbies, I feel like. I mean, I just a handful that I know of drawing your garden out during wrestling tournaments and your jewelry making at one point in time, and then to whatever it is now and all your stuff that you do. So, how do you think our hobbies change over time because we're looking for something new, or do you think that it's like you get tired with the hobby you're doing and you want to do something else?
Well, for me, I like trying new things. So I do a lot of, I do a lot of home canning and that type of thing. And every year I plant something different in the garden just to see what happens.
Yeah.
And most of the times it's kind of a flop. It doesn't really grow very well in our environment, or it didn't really turn out. It didn't taste well, and I didn't want to, grow it again.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I like to try new things because I think that's where the learning is at. I think that we learn things by doing things. And if we're just observing and not trying new things, then we're really not learning anything at all. It's knowledge without any action. So I like to do different things. My hobbies now I love, home canning things. I really do enjoy that quite a bit. I like having the stuff that we take out of the garden and that I put into a jar and we eat in 18 months, and that makes me happy. Or dehydration, so that you guys have food whenever you go elk hunting, so that there's something, and I don't have to worry about you starving on a mountain someplace. I mean, for me, it makes me feel good, right?
Yeah.
I know you have food.
It also makes you feel like you're there,
Yeah, it makes me
the
feel
piece
part
of
of
you
it.
is there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't go elk hunting, but I know that I'm sending something with you. So I know that it may be more than enough food, but maybe you'll need it because you're stuck up at 12,000 feet and can't get down, and you need something to eat.
No, that's...
So yeah, I think we should always be trying new things, honestly, in hobbies. And right now, the dogs are a hobby, granddaughters are a hobby, you guys are a hobby. I mean, I think that we all go through seasons where we have more need to be available to family to do things like that. But I don't know, I just like this year, every year I try to think of something, well, what do I want to do this year that's a little different? So I have a good friend, she does lots of ceramics. She's very talented at ceramics. And there's a place in Green Valley, you can go and do pottery stuff. And I thought, man, that'd be kind of cool to do that this year. I'm not really artsy, so I want to do it, but then I think it probably won't turn out very good. So I don't know what I'm going to do this year that's a little different. But every year I try to do something different.
You've already done some artsy stuff, though.
Yeah, that's true. I've been taking some pheasant feathers and doing some things.
Yeah,
that's
wreaths
true.
and stuff.
I've been making
that
wreaths.
Artsy. That takes some art to it.
Well,
you may not think it is, but
that's true.
That is.
Yesterday we went to Pheasant Fest, and I bought these earrings so I could have them as a model. So I thought, well, I could take the pheasant feathers and make some earrings because I spent $25 on these feathers.
Know. Right. Yeah.
Hey,
oh, Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah. Come here.
That's one of our devotions with dog friends there.
There she is. Whatever she's staring at.
Probably nothing.
It's probably just Jim out No, it's
She's-
in the stuff. You're fine. Go.
She thinks she's got to tell us all about it.
Please, you
I told her she was going to be banished to the basement because you never know when she's going to have to like make a big scene about something. So she's doing that now. That's Daisy. She's a noisemaker.
Yes, she whines and cries every time you see her. So, yeah, no.
She does. Yeah.
Racy dogs.
They're part of it though, so they might as well they might as well be on here.
That's true. That is very true. Yeah, so we went to Pheasant Fest yesterday. That was our first time ever going to something like that.
Yeah,
that
it was good.
That was pretty cool.
I really enjoyed the day.
I
We
got
were
a
there
free
all
hat,
day.
so I mean.
Oh, that's right. You did. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It was really cool. We got to see they had French Britneys there. They had a booth with French Britneys, and I've never seen a French Britney before.
Me neither.
So
I've never seen one.
And that's what we have. We have Britneys. And so it was fun talking to them, and it was fun talking to the Britney rescue people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there was people wandering around with their Britneys. They were just,
Yeah, people brought their dogs and different stuff. On Friday there was a dog parade, a bird dog parade, and we're working people, so we don't get to enjoy all aspects of that because we save our PTO and time for other days and things that are important to us. So, but it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it. I learned a lot of different stuff. And
I did too.
You get to talk to a lot of people, in booths. I mean, we bought that water system and from those guys, and it was like I saw it and I was skeptical, and then they kept talking about it, and I'm like, he wasn't even selling it. He was just like, he was like, I was describing our hunting style, and he's like, this, you don't got to unpack it, this or that. So it was perfect for us, Convenience, especially up in the mountains, it's needed. And then, we sat through 2 seminars. There's so many seminars there,
Oh, you couldn't have gotten to them all.
No, never.
Yeah, there was a guy that was doing dog training, yeah, that you listened to on a podcast. Yeah, he was, and we just got the last little bit of his, but I wish we'd gotten to that one because I think he was interesting.
Yeah, like a training versus like obedience, basically, and like.
And he was saying
oversensitive. And
he was saying that no, the other one, because that guy that you listened to, he was saying how his Britneys are part of the family. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
His talk was a bird dog and family, which it was very keen of like. Well, it's how Dad was whenever I first got Kate, and she was in the household and living, and then he saw how she hunted and how she was driven to perform, right? And then now, your dogs sleep with you guys. Now,
right, I know. Well, she has her own bed.
Yeah, they all have their own bed, But they want to please more in the
field.
They do. They try harder, and I think that's with anything. If you put effort and love and care into a relationship with a person or with dogs or at work, they're going to give you back that tenfold, and give it to you. And
you have to put your effort into it.
Yes, intentional again,
I think it's easy for us to get really busy and not connect with our friends enough. And you do bring up a good point. I mean, just having the dogs with us all the time, they know us and we know them. And when something goes a little haywire, we know something's wrong with them. Well, I think that's true with our friends too. If we're very intentional with our friendships, we know when something's not going well for somebody, and we can help come alongside them and be a friend to them, or just offer support. We don't have to solve the problem, but just to be there is important. Just to listen.
To be a vent.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's definitely But there's some really good stuff there.
Very good stuff. I would go again.
I would go again, or like the turkey one or a deer one would be cool to go. I mean, there's
And it's funny because you get to talk to just everyday people like us there, just very,
normal people.
They, all the weird stuff that's going on in the world, you can just put that all somewhere else and go there, and it's something very common that we all have.
Yes.
And there's not that division that you get everywhere else now. So it was really very, very fun. It was just a fun day just to see all these different things, and
everyone had a smile on their face.
Everyone had a smile on their face. They were happy to be there, happy to see you, and of course the dogs make everybody happy.
Oh yeah, that whole dog side over there with.
Yeah, that's where everybody was at, pretty much.
Yeah, that's where it was the heaviest section.
Yeah.
The first 2 rows before all the dogs.
Yep.
Loaded up.
Loaded up. Yeah. Plus, there was free dog food there too.
Yeah. Free dog food and coupons and
That's right.
trying to win a handful of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was good. It was a good time. I highly suggest that if you're looking at a conference of any type to go to,
Mm-hmm.
not just for what we're talking about, but in general, something that interests you, you should go if it's in your town.
Yes.
Especially if it's in your town. Spend 4 hours there and go. Make a day out of it.
Yeah.
Or if it's a 2 hour drive or something, and you're away from the city, make the drive and go.
Yeah, I think that there's just a lot to be learned in community like that. Like we were talking afterwards, the Turkey Federation has theirs in Nashville.
Yeah.
And it's not that far; it's 8 hours. But
right.
You
can make a whole weekend.
You can make a whole weekend of it,
mm-hmm.
and learn new things, and also take in some of the sites in a different town that you could drive to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying about like finding something new to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something new, and it really makes you think about things and not get stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to grow.
It is. Mm-hmm. You got to keep growing continually.
Yeah.
So, what is one thing what are one or two things that you try to learn every year? Like, is there to get better at?
One or two things to learn every year.
For yourself or people in general.
Okay, well, this year, I've told you I'm doing a year in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That's been very interesting, and it's been kind of a challenge too, because I've been in the church since I've been 6 months old, and you know the things that are in there, but then as you listen to them, and it's not when you do a year in the Bible, you can't really stop and study. Like if something piques your interest, you have to keep going if you really want to stay on track. You can't just stop and because I like to meditate on the thing if there's something new, and you don't have time to do that because there's a lot. But then I thought, well, I want to finish this sooner. Like I want to be done before a year in the Bible. Like I want to get done in 6 months because I'm enjoying it for one. And I am learning something that way, but I think that that's important. Like I read the scriptures, but also this year I'm doing it differently. I'm reading a year in the Bible. So in that way, I'm doing it. I do that differently every year. I try to find some new way to learn scripture. And one year I did, like I would take a scripture and I would just write it down. Mm-hmm. And then I would find a different translation and I would write it down. So I would have like the same verse, but 3 different translations.
Like NIV, King James, and then like another one?
Exactly. And so I would write it down, and then I would circle words that were important or that really stuck out at me. Mm-hmm. And then if something really piqued my interest, I would kind of go off and read and learn more about that thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I've done before, in a year's time. But this year I'm doing a year in the Bible. So that is one way that I like to do, like Bible study differently every year. I don't want to get stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
So that's one way of that. But then, like I said earlier, I like to try to find some new hobby. And many times I'm not very good at it. And it's like, I'm not doing this again. Like, it's too much work or too much money or it's not interesting to me. There was a time when everybody was doing scrapbooking. I hated that. But I had girlfriends that were like, oh, this is great. And I hated it. So I think we have to be aware that something just doesn't fit us and just move on. Like, don't worry about it. Yeah. You don't have to do it because everybody is doing it because they have the interest in it, but it may not be the right fit for you. Yeah. So I said, I can't do this scrapbooking thing. I'm not artsy.
I thought you loved it, honestly.
You did?
Yeah. Yes.
I hated it. I gave away all the scrapbooking stuff. I'm like, somebody take this. I don't want to look at another sticker or the scrapbooking page. I did not enjoy it. Because my friend Julie did. She loved that. And I just could never get into it. I just was like, I'm sorry. This isn't the thing for me. It's tedious. And not satisfying. So don't do stuff like that that's not satisfying. Find something else. Find something else.
Yeah, well, like last year, I think your hobby was working out, I feel like. That was the first year you've worked out.
Yeah, I got a trainer.
Wholeheartedly, yeah.
Yeah. That's true. I got a trainer for 6 months, and I learned a lot about, because I'm 58, I want to be, and my dad had dementia, so I'm very aware that I need to find a way to be functional and continue to strengthen myself so that as I age, I'm not... I'm able to go and do things. We did the incline, the Manitou incline last year. Like, that was really important to me. And it took a long time for me to get up that thing. Yeah.
You did it.
I did it.
You accomplished it.
And when I sat down, I was, very overwhelmed with what I had done. And thank goodness you and your dad were there, with me because it was hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was at altitude, and I'd been working out.
2,000 feet, Yeah,
it's one of the hardest hikes in the United States to do. It's straight up, 1 mile straight up, literally. I was crawling, remember?
Yeah.
I mean, it was hard, and I didn't want to sit down because if I sat down, I felt like I couldn't breathe, so I just stood the whole time.
You stood and keep moving.
I just kept thinking, I got to finish this thing.
It's like life. Stand up and keep moving.
It's true, but it was encouraging the people that were there, and when you got to the top, there was a whole cheering section of strangers, right? Remember?
Yes.
And they were ringing bells, and I don't think I'd ever do it again. I mean, it was a one-time thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, those are the things. You have to challenge yourself. Yeah. And I would have been disappointed if I hadn't finished it. Yeah. I really would have been. I would have felt like I had trained to do something and then didn't finish it.
You had more in the tank still.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we do have more in the tank sometimes when we come to the end and we think we don't.
I think we always do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was good.
So I've been watching. I told Dad this yesterday, I think, or the other day. But there's this TV show called Extraction. Have you seen that? Mm-mm. So there's a headquarters where it's two people of your family or friends or whatever, and then you're out in the wilderness trying to survive, and they are doing competitions. But they have, if you say you want to be extracted, they have to push the button to extract you, kind of.
Oh, so they kind of know your limits.
So they know your limits and how well you can do out there or not do out there, kind of.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so that's where it's you know what your body, but then other people have seen you do more, who are supporting you or who have gone through trials or whatever with you, so they know you can withstand it, and they're gonna be no. One of them's she's fine. She'll be fine for another day. She told me to give her a day, and if she still feels that way, then extract her.
Yeah, that's true.
And because if you know your people that way, and so I was you do, and what they can endure actually, and they think they can't do it because they at the time, but really, it's because they're fatigued or whatever, and
it's mental.
Mental.
Well, you guys had been training aerobically before that, so you had your lung capacity. Yeah. But I'd been training with weights, so I had the ability to do all the steps and everything, but I didn't have the lungs, so it was real. That was really hard. Yeah. But then you guys were like, well, just 10 more stairs, and it's there's about 2,000 more stairs. But okay, it's 10 stairs at a time. I can get it. Yeah. Right?
And we would meet people afterwards who've lived in Colorado their whole life or that town and have never done it.
Yeah. And remember when we were in town that day? Well, we told you we were there. We were in town shopping because Jacob was flying in. And the town people were kind of discouraging to us. They're like, oh, you don't want to do that. You want to do such and such trail instead. Yeah. And we were there for the sole purpose in that town to do the incline. Yeah.
We would never go to that town for any other reason.
Not at all. So I was kind of, it did aggravate me a little bit. And it actually, the night before, I was a little anxious about it because the town people were saying don't do it. And I thought, well, surely they know. Yeah. And so I was glad I didn't listen to them. I was glad I listened to my inner self and my family instead of them. And Dad was sick too that week, the day before.
Yeah,
so.
You felt terrible. I think it was some altitude sickness. Yeah. He doesn't drink enough water, 90% of the United States population.
Right, I think so too. Because we were pretty high up. I think we were
9,000
we were staying at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, we were up there. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was good. Yeah, that was really. I look back on that, and I'm really proud of that, being able to do that. But coming down that trail, oh my!
That was worse than I ate it 3 times.
You did, and I didn't want to laugh at you, but it was so.
I know the way I fell in slow motion. I know, a Three Stooges fall.
And we were all so tired we couldn't help you.
Yeah,
I was just hoping you weren't going to roll down the mountain.
I feel like I would have gotten down faster if I could have rolled down.
It was a long ways down and no shade.
And
then those people coming on the way up, it was literally midday, and they were heading up to Pikes Peak, and I thought, there's just no way. These people are crazy. They don't know what they're
getting
into.
We're only going 6 miles, and I was like, it's a 3 mile switchback. Before I don't even know what you guys have after that.
Yeah, that bar trail. That's not for the faint of heart at all. So if anybody's planning on doing the hike to Pikes Peak, I don't know. Those people were going to come down by the train the next day. I was just hoping that they were going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think hopefully we go on one next year, whenever we plan a trip
Mm-hmm.
for a hike of some type.
Yeah, we do need to plan on it. It's hard to kind of think
Northwest or
about.
something. I think that'd be cool.
Yep, I do too.
I would love to do the Appalachian Trail.
Well, we did do a little bit of it.
A little bit.
I mean, we went to Gettysburg last year,
Yeah.
which that was like a bucket list for me.
It was, yeah.
And that was even now I think about that trip and all of the things that happened there, and there's just so much. We had a guide; he was unbelievable.
Great.
But my brain was so stuffed with information. Remember, we got home or we got back to the motel and we just laid in the bed our brains were like
trying to process. It's like, what did he say? It's like, what? That happened?
It was a lot. It's a very interesting place.
3 days, a lot happened in that.
Yeah, it's worth going.
It does.
If you're an American, you should go to Gettysburg.
Yes.
And get a guide.
Get a guide and realize that you're 15 feet apart and cousin and brother are fighting cousin and brother.
Yes.
Through and through.
People that went to school together.
Yes.
To Army school together were fighting against each other and knew each other and knew they were across lines from one another.
Yeah.
And even hoped to see one another on the battlefield. Well, it was just something to think about what they were going through. But anyway, the Appalachian Trail is close to there.
Yeah.
So we went there. This was before the incline.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't know, what was the warning? It was like
high level or extreme or something.
And I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah. And it was kind of, but
that first uphill, that first half mile was straight up basically.
Yeah, so we get to hike the Appalachian Trail for about 2 or 3 miles, something like that.
Yeah.
We can say we've been there.
Yeah.
Not the 2,000 something miles.
Yeah, not the full distance. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So it's that was good.
Well, I've been watching this guy he did the whole Mississippi River in 6 months.
Oh, like
from the headwaters, canoed it all the way down through to the Gulf.
That's saying something, especially when you get to the Gulf.
Yeah.
All that shit.
That's like the same type of trip,
Yeah, very much.
Different hazards, but same type of trip. It would be cool.
That's.
I wish I didn't have a job and could do that.
Don't you wish you were a millionaire?
Yeah.
Your parents had been rich.
Then I could do stuff like that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It'd be great.
It sure
awesome.
would be. Darn.
Well,
that's not the case.
No, it is not. All right. I don't know. What do you have? You have any questions or anything?
Gosh, I didn't know that was going to be a question. Do I have any questions? Well, I don't know. Being raised in this family, what do you think? It's been like being in our family compared to some people that you know that have been raised in other families.
I think our family is very blessed. Mm-hmm. I think that you and Dad were very intentional. And I hear people talk about their siblings of discontent or they never got along, and that's not Rebecca and I don't think at all. I think the biggest time we would fight is whenever I'd probably eat her food out of the fridge. That's probably about the only time. But we're very supportive of each other, and I think that just goes back to our pack mentality. Sure, we won't be happy with each other, every now and again, but what pack of wolves isn't at times, They're going to be some animosity here and there, but it's out of love,
Yeah.
Out of, hey, you can do better, or whatever. And I think that's the standard that you guys have set of always doing above and beyond, but being intentional with the people around you. And I think that's reflected in my friendships with people that I've brought into my life, and Rebecca's brought into her life, and how we do our work. Dad used to be the biggest bill breaker out there, and I mean, you've won every award known to man, I feel like, at KU.
Well,
and it just shows that, be driven but care for people. And I think that's what our family means, and it goes a long way with other people.
Yeah.
And hearing that in men's group of, I know people have different home lives and raised differently, and it just is I'm just truly blessed with that. And so I'm thankful. And Rebecca and I have joked at times, whenever I've been somewhere in the country or in Bethany or something, and I'm I'm really glad Mom and Dad didn't raise us up here, just as just seeing how nothing against them, but just different lifestyle stuff, right?
Right.
And expectation.
Yeah.
And the wide majority of friends I have, I think of us living here and being how we are, has made me into a person, and seeing that from how you guys are with people as well, and having wide and vast friends that can support you in different ways.
I think we had the best kind of both worlds. We lived down here close to the city, but we had the farm up by Bethany. So we had kind of the best of two worlds, didn't we, by doing it like that? Because we spent a lot of time at the farm when you guys were little. I mean, my goodness, when you think about, I mean, there's a lot of devotions with dog stories there, too.
A lot. A lot of them.
And it was
hand,
hard work.
Addie
Yeah, burning your hand,
us.
or sleeping in the cabin when it was 17 degrees.
Right, and no heater,
no heater.
The toilet
no toilet.
was just a bucket toilet.
The shower was a bag outside.
Yeah, a handful of different,
Oh, yeah, we roughed it. Yeah.
Plenty of different things.
But, you know, the way Dad and I are is because of the way that our parents were. So it's a family tree, and when your family tree is broken, then you have to replant your tree a little differently. But when your family tree is healthy, you want to grow new trees right next to the tree.
The roots run deep.
Yeah, the roots run deep. So it goes really back to your dad's grandparents and his parents and my parents. And I think you're blessed because there's 3 generations ahead of you that blessed us.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that it's really, for me, it's a blessing just thinking about how those people influenced how your dad and I were. And we didn't even really know it sometimes. Like even now, I think back to Grandpa Clark's parents and how they influenced Dad so much, and how that probably really influenced me. And I didn't know it so much. So I think the family is really important, and if your family is a little wonky, then you have to replant your tree a little bit differently and fertilize it differently.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. It's just, something just hit the window.
Kate.
Yeah, that was Kate that time?
Yeah, it's Kate.
Where?
She wants to be on the podcast. Oh, it's Daisy. Oh, dear. Daisy.
Yeah. No, I think that learning from the generations ahead of you, and I mean, well, like, Grandpa traced our family, and Craig traced our family all the way back to 1616.
Yes.
So we've been ingrained in this country and the lifestyle that
we were in the Revolutionary War.
Completely.
Which is part of your roots.
That is completely a part of your roots, and how prideful our family is of being American. I think so too. We've been here from the beginning, and there was a car door that time, Kate. Thank you. So, yeah, it's been good.
Well, what they're getting on this podcast is what my life is like at home.
Yeah, trying to work from home.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Oh.
You're fine. Come here.
It's okay. You want to get up on the podcast?
Come here. Come on. Up. Show everybody you're here. Come here. Get up here. Oh, dear. There's Daisy.
It's Daisy. She's like, I don't want to be up here. What?
You're on.
Tell him something.
Yeah. Now she doesn't want to.
She goes, no thanks. She goes, no thank you.
Knucklehead. You're a knucklehead.
Well, okay. We don't have a history trip planned this year, or a hike, really.
No, we don't.
So.
But we've gone to some really good places. When you were traveling, it was really kind of a blessing, because you would land someplace, and then I would come out,
and we'd go do
and
something.
we'd go find some place that was historical.
Yeah.
And we didn't really even know where we were going. Like Fort Donelson.
Yeah. No clue.
That's a pretty cool place, but
yeah.
I didn't know.
No clue.
No clue. And now I'm like, wow, that was a really interesting battle that happened there.
Yeah.
So, we got, and then we went to the Revolutionary War. We went to the cow pens there. And that was really interesting.
Which is what the Patriots based off of. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are walking, and you know what was interesting there? So we're at this Revolutionary War battlefield, and history is very important to us. It's really flat there. It's a very interesting place, and you can kind of see how the battle might have been. But we were there kind of on a historical journey, but there are like locals that they just walk it for their exercise.
Yeah.
And then as they were doing that, I thought, well, do you know where you're at? Like, I really wondered, do you have any clue what happened here? or how significant this place is, or do you just walk here because it's flat and it's an easy walk?
Mm-hmm.
And while we were there, we were like analyzing it and trying to think like where were the redcoats and where was the Continental Army and all the things. Like we were trying to like put it all together.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool being there because I've never been to a Revolutionary War battlefield before.
No, that was my first one ever.
Yes.
So, it was eye-opening to say the least.
It was very eye-opening.
Well, and then also when we were looking over at Gettysburg, there was the dad and his kids and wife running. I don't know if you remember seeing that at all. I know I saw it because I sent a video to Michael. And I was like, "This is you and your family on vacation," as a joke, and so. But it's like, I hope those kids know what they're running it, and 50,000 men died there,
Right.
So
that place was very meaningful. Remember when we were there at sunset, and it's very interesting how they've got the monuments there. The monuments, you could spend literally a day just trying to figure out, because every monument has a message or a story.
Yeah, and a reason why it's placed that perfect way for it to
yes, so we had both generals on both sides on these big horses that were facing across this field.
Meade and Lee, yeah.
Yes, where Pickett's charge happened. And if you're on either side of the battlefield by that statue, you could see the viewpoint of what that general would have seen.
Yeah.
And it was very overwhelming to see that. But, the other thing that really moved me there was we were there at sunset, and there weren't that many people, and it was kind of cool. It was in April. It was very quiet. It was very quiet. And it was just a very reverent place to be. It felt very, I don't know, I felt just very humble to be there, to think if that battle hadn't happened, it kind of was a turning point a little bit for the war, because
the South would have had a foothold.
They would have had a foothold in the North, and it would have been very emotional for people that lived in the North, and who knows what would have happened.
Yeah. Would have been a different outcome.
Different outcome completely, I feel like. And they were so close to Washington there.
Mm-hmm. And Pennsylvania.
I mean, they were only 50 miles from the capital.
Philadelphia,
yes, so.
And Harrisburg.
Yeah, and so that place it was just very moving to me to be there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot to be learned like that. And I'm glad that your dad's not big into the history, and your sister isn't either. And I don't know. I mean, my dad really was into history. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's a weird genetic thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened.
I feel like Dad would have taken the military side, especially the artillery side, and how it was like they could hear it in Washington D.C. basically. Mm-hmm. I think he would have liked that aspect of it and like the military part of it, but the actual history, he doesn't grasp it as much.
No,
that's just his brain doesn't work that way.
Not at all.
Everyone's brain works differently. So,
but we go into kind of the details and really try to analyze.
In the weeds for sure.
Yeah, we get into the weeds. We start analyzing it. And we're like, well, what about blah blah blah?
Yeah.
And then we're looking it up or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, we don't have a historical place to go to. But I don't know. There is a place, because we're going back to Minnesota. I would love to go to the Lost 40.
I would love to go there for a day.
Yeah. So the Lost 40 in Minnesota, back in the days of when they were logging, they logged all of the U.S. But this place in Minnesota was missed because they thought it was a lake, I think, the way that the surveyors had done it. So it's actually virgin wood. It's never been touched forest. And it's about 40 acres. And it's a state park, so you can walk through it. I'd love to go there, but it's pretty far, and it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It literally is in the middle of nowhere.
It's like a 2.5-hour drive from where we're at.
I think it is too. It'd be a real commitment to go look at trees.
Hey, it's going to rain today. We might as well just drive out. Or that'd be the day to go.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, okay, we've done so much in town. We might as well go there.
So that could be something, but it would all be dependent upon the weather.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to bust a good day of weather, would we?
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you've got our scripture of the day.
I do.
So we'll let you go ahead and do that.
Yeah, you told me the scripture of the day, and this actually happens to be one of my favorite books in the Bible, actually. It's Psalm 91, 1 and 2. And it says, "He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust." I love that. I love Psalm 91, all of it, but I really like that. It's He is the refuge for us. He's where healing is. He's literally where everything is for me.
Healing, strength, everything.
Everything is there. Protection, all of it. All of it.
If you think about a castle, it's all of those things. It's a refuge for people coming.
Yeah.
It's where the military was trained, of those days and age, and so they can get reestablished and refurbished and to go back out and healed and go back out to there, and just being dwelling in there can give you strength.
Yeah.
And dwelling in Him can give you strength.
Yeah, and He'll cover you. But you have to be willing. You really have to be willing. It's not, you can't expect it to be a one-sided thing that He's just doing. You have to also be doing something. It's a
relationship of, you have to be working in it too.
Yeah.
You have to be working at it.
Whatever you put into it is what you're going to get. So if you're not going to put anything into it, you're probably going to not get much out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. Yep. Just like anything.
You got to give to take.
You really do. Yeah.
To give and take.
And that's what He wants. That's all He wants is relationship. Period. Nothing else. He doesn't want anything else from us. Not money, nothing else. He just wants relationship.
Yes, relationship with Him.
Yeah. Simple.
It's so people overcomplicate it.
They really do. Just give in to the Lord.
Yeah.
He wants to be your best friend.
Completely. And
He's so much full of wisdom. That's what I love that scripture so much, all of 91. He's so full of wisdom. He knows so much more than what I know or understand.
I've had people tell me that, you want God to be your best friend, and, two of my friends say, I talk to him like they're African American, they're black, and they're like, I talk to him like he is,
Right.
And I'm like, as you should. You should talk to him how you talk to your best friend or your people.
Yes.
Because that's what it should be. It shouldn't be this prim and proper. It should be real, raw and real.
He doesn't want prim and proper.
He wants real and raw.
He wants down and dirty.
Down and dirty.
And He wants joy when the joy is happening too.
Yep.
So He wants all of it.
He wants all of it. He wants to feel it all.
Yeah, that's what He's there for. That's why
your
He loves us so much.
Your scars and your happiness and your triumphs.
All of it. So that would be my parting word. If somebody is listening to this, just like my devotions with dog, if somebody is listening to this and I'm no longer here, I hope that you understand just how passionate God is about you.
How powerful and big He is.
You can't even. It's hard to even explain it.
You can't explain it.
And He does these things sometimes out of left field, and you're like, well, that's interesting. It's like such a surprise.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're so surprised by it. But He plops these things into our lives and that we didn't even expect. And it's kind of overwhelming when He does that.
Yeah.
And it's from God.
Yeah. You can tell whenever it's a God thing and whenever it's not.
Yeah, you have this peace about things. Yes, you feel really good about whatever the thing is that's happened.
Yes.
And that's the Holy Spirit indwelling in me that's taking whatever's happening in me, the person, to the throne room of God, and that's where the communication is happening.
Yep.
It's really neat.
Yep. It is. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Bear.Den.Podcast. I will share Devotions with Dogs Instagram page and Facebook page on ours, so that if you want to read into those devotions during the week or whenever she posts a new one, feel free to follow her, like, comment, share.
Yeah, share. Definitely.
As always, we will take your prayer requests. You can email them at our email that's in our Instagram bio, our YouTube bio, or Spotify and Facebook. And we'd be happy to put you on our prayer board or in our prayers. So just know you're blessed, as always.
Yeah.
This has been the Bear.Den Podcast.